I don't know if I did the right thing or if I triggered something I shouldn't have touched. Because at first, it seemed like just an act of kindness. But now, I wake up in the middle of the night with the feeling of being watched. And every time I look out the window, those damn black SUVs are there, parked, no one inside, waiting. Have you ever been through something that made you doubt your own sanity? Tell me in the comments, because I need to know if it's just me. My name is Anna Clara. I'm 22 years old, and I have a normal life. Or at least I thought I did. I live with my mother, who works as a nurse in a public hospital. She's one of those women who only breaks down in the shower. Strong to a fault. The type who always thinks everything is just in our heads. My father disappeared when I was 9 years old. Literally. He went out to buy cigarettes and never came back. And yes, I know that sentence sounds like a ready-made joke, but it's not. Since then, I have this habit, observing random people, creating stories in my head, imagining what they're hiding. I think it's the way my mind found to try to understand why someone would disappear like that, as if they have been erased from existence. I study literature in college and work at a small market near home. Night shift. Little movement, flickering fluorescent light, constant smell of stale bread and disinfectant. There's something about this place that gives me the feeling that time folds in on itself inside there. On some random Friday, the old man appeared. He had a presence you couldn't ignore, though nothing about him was flashy. Brown pants, checkered shirt, slow walk, slightly hunched, but his eyes, these seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 wrong decisions. He bought few things: milk, a jar of honey, 2 cans of sardines, sliced bread, and a bar of soap. When it came time to pay, he stood there staring at the display, as if he couldn't read the numbers. "I forgot my wallet," he said with an almost rehearsed calm. "Can I leave this here and come back later?" But something held me back. I said, "Don't worry, I'll pay for it." He looked at me for a few seconds, didn't smile, didn't thank me. He just said, "You don't know what you're doing." I gave an awkward laugh and swiped the card anyway. As he was leaving, he mumbled something like, "They know now." At the time, I thought it was just the delirium of an old man starved for attention. But that phrase echoed in my head like a password I had activated without meaning to. When I got home that night, I noticed something strange. The microwave's digital clock was stuck. It read 0333, even though it was 10 p.m. The doorbell rang. 3 rings. Quick. Precise. When I opened the window curtain, there was no one there. Just a black SUV, parked across the street, dark windows, headlights off, engine running. I stood there for about 30 seconds, waiting for someone to get out. Nothing. Then I blinked, and the car was no longer there. I thought, okay, I'm tired. I'm seeing things. But from then on, the pattern repeated. SUVs appearing at random times, always in silence, always watching me, or maybe waiting for something. Until my mother started commenting, "You've been acting different. Is everything okay?" But how do you explain to someone that an apparently random good deed put your life into a paranoid spiral? The problem wasn't the presence of the SUVs. It was what I started to feel when they were there. As if I no longer was alone inside my own body. As if a part of me knew exactly what was happening and was trying to hide it from me. Since that night, I started wondering if paying for a stranger's groceries had been just a random gesture. or the beginning of a countdown, because the SUVs came back. At first, I thought it was coincidence. I worked nights, came home alone. Any car seems threatening at 11 p.m. But these weren't just cars. They knew when to appear, always at the exact moment when I thought everything had gone back to normal. Always watching me from the same distance. Not close enough to be invasive, not far enough to go unnoticed. And I started to feel, not see, feel, something behind my eyes, as if there was someone there, inside my head, testing buttons, memories, reactions. On the third appearance of the SUVs, something changed. I was in my room, already laying down, with the lights off, the window half open. It was around 2 a.m., and then I heard it. A sharp, continuous beep, as if someone had triggered an alert button inside my brain. I tried to get up, but my body didn't respond. My head was spinning, my skin was tingling, and the only thing I could hear was a deep, hoarse voice, but inside me. Recording initiated, level 3 activated, subject 7 responding. It wasn't a human voice. It was something technical, impersonal, almost automatic. I closed my eyes tightly, tried to think of something else, but then I felt a physical presence in the room. And when I finally managed to turn my face, I saw a silhouette leaning against the wall with something like a transparent helmet full of wires and blinking lights, as if it were an astronaut from a failed experiment. He, or that thing, stared at me. No visible face, just the body structure, motionless, waiting for I don't know what. I blinked again. The figure had disappeared, but the smell remained. A metallic smell, like when you bleed and lick your finger. And something else, like ozone, burnt iron. The room never had the same air again. The next morning, a letter. No sender, no stamp, no name. Just a sheet with a sentence written in crooked capital letters. You have unlocked a forbidden memory. The old man was the access. The vehicles are the threshold. I showed it to my mother. She thought it was a prank, threw it away without even reading it properly. But at night, the SUVs appeared again. 3 of them, aligned, this time with the headlights on, but the headlights were turned inward, as if they wanted to illuminate the house, or what lived inside me. I no longer slept, wasn't eating properly, started hearing voices even in the sound of the refrigerator. At college, they asked me if I was using medication, and I wanted to answer, yes, I'm using silence as medication, because every time I speak, something worse happens. But I just smiled and said it was stress. Until the market got a new employee, replacing someone who quit, but no one saw the guy leave. The new employee? It was the old man. Only now, younger. Same face, same voice, same eyes. But no wrinkles, no tremors. He walked straight, strong. He looked at me on the first day and said, "I thought you wouldn't accept," and continued stacking canned goods as if nothing had happened. I tried to ignore it, kept working, but he was always there, watching me when I wasn't looking. One night he called me to the stockroom. I hesitated, but I went. He had his back turned. When he turned around, he was holding a notebook. Black cover, no title. He opened it to a random page and read aloud. Day 47. Subject began showing fragments of recollection. Direct exposure to Unit 13 was a mistake, but necessary. He closed the notebook, looked me in the eyes, and asked me, calmly, "Do you remember who you were before all this? I didn't answer, because part of me knew the answer, but didn't want to admit it. He placed the notebook on the highest shelf in the stockroom, turned and left without saying anything else. The next day, he didn't show up, and the notebook had disappeared too. I walked home, trying to piece things together. At the corner of my street, the 3 SUVs were waiting for me. Not parked, with their doors open. And for the first time, I saw who was inside. 3 people. Or 3 versions of myself. One older with short hair and black clothes. Another teenager crying with her face pressed against the window. And the third, faceless. No mouth, no eyes, just the shape. All of them stared at me, and at that moment I had a feeling I'll never be able to explain in words. The absolute certainty that I was an experiment. Not in the poetic sense, in the literal sense. Implanted memories, programmed cycles, and maybe the choice to pay for the old man was never mine. Maybe all of that had been the final test. That night I dreamed of a laboratory, a white room with pulsing lights and screens with recordings of my entire life. Every decision, every deviation, every impulse, and a phrase blinking in red, programming initiated again, self-awareness error identified. I woke up with blood in my nose, the same metallic smell, the same buzzing. And the clock? 03:33. Again. The next day, I woke up in a hospital, not knowing how I got there. My mother sitting beside the bed, eyes red from crying so much, and a nurse taking my blood pressure as if I were a thread about to explode. I stayed there for hours without saying anything until my mother finally broke the silence. "You locked yourself in the bathroom yesterday. You were screaming nonsense, saying there were other versions of you trying to replace you. Then you went silent for 3 hours." She looked at me like someone looking at a wounded animal, afraid to touch. On the nightstand, a handwritten note. "It has already begun. They can no longer stop you." No signature, no clue who left it. In my admission file, I read something that froze my blood. Patient presents dissociative psychotic break, recurrent reference to multiple versions of self, auditory and visual hallucinations, episodes of catatonia. Recommendation: intensive observation and emotional containment. I don't remember having a breakdown, but there were flashes, quick cuts in my mind. Me screaming, the old man at the market with completely black eyes, a tube coming out of my arm, 3 voices whispering in chorus. "You were never just one. You are the entire project." After 2 days, I was discharged. Or rather, they discharged me, like saying, "Good luck with what's left of you." But I knew it wasn't over. That night, the TVs in the house turned on by themselves. All of them. Even the one in the kitchen, which has been broken for 2 years. On the screen, just one image. My medical file, slowly rotating with my school photo in the background, and beside it, a countdown, starting at 1:00:00. Every second that passed, I felt my body react as if something was physically approaching. My skin got goosebumps, my eyes watered, and my throat closed up. At minute 38, someone knocked on the door. Just one knock, but loud enough to shake the window glass. I ran to look. A man, in a suit, with a badge without a name and an engraved symbol, an eye inside a triangle, inside a spiral. He said nothing, just held a briefcase and extended his hand, offering something. When I went down to the door, he was no longer there, but on the ground, there was a key and an address written on metallic paper. Warehouse 404, North Marginal, 0333. Yes, always the same time. I arrived at the place that dawn. An abandoned warehouse covered in graffiti and silence. The gate opened by itself when I approached. And inside, everything was white. No dirt, no noise, no dust. Just an infinite corridor, illuminated by cold lights like in a hospital. At the end of it, a mirror. But it wasn't an ordinary mirror. When I looked at myself, I didn't see my reflection. I saw all the other versions of me. There were dozens. Child, teenager, elderly. One dressed as a doctor, another bald and full of electrodes on her head, one bleeding. All of them stared at me. None of them moved, until one of them spoke, without moving her lips. Only one of us will continue. The mirror shattered with a scream. Not mine, but all of theirs at the same time. And then I woke up, back in my room. No broken mirror, no SUV, no hospital. But with blood on my palm and a piece of glass between the sheets. I tried to tell my mother. She cried again, said I needed real help. But when I asked her to take me to the hospital, she froze, looked at me as if she had been turned off for a second, and said in a voice that wasn't hers, "The experiment cannot be interrupted. Subject 7 activated. Proceed to the next phase." After that, she fainted and never spoke about it again. In the following days, I started to disappear. Literally. Old photos began to disappear from albums. Birthday videos appeared with an empty space where I should be. People from college said, "Are you in my course? I've never seen you." But I was still here. Or something inside me was keeping this illusion alive. On the dawn of my birthday, I received a notification on my phone. Unknown app. It just said, "Ready?" I touched it. The screen went black, and my face appeared. But without eyes, without mouth. The same version I saw in the SUV. And then, everything went out. Since that night, I never use mirrors again, or cameras, or social media. Not because I'm afraid of what they'll see, but because I myself no longer know what's there. If it's me. If it's still me. My mother no longer remembers the breakdown. Says I was never hospitalized, that I made it all up after watching too many movies. But when I ask about the old man at the market, she just answers, "You always liked making up stories." At college, no one knows my name anymore. Not even the professors. Not even my coworkers. Everyone acts as if I were an extra floating through their reality. And sometimes I feel exactly like that. A disconnected presence. Loose. Outside the source code. As if at any moment someone would appear. Click delete. And everything that was left of me would be replaced by a more stable version. But then comes the detail that confuses me. Because every night at 3:33, I receive a notification. Same phrase, ready for the next cycle? And every night I touch it. Every night the screen goes out. And for a few seconds, I don't exist. Literally, nothing. It's as if the world paused, erased me, just to reactivate me with a slight adjustment. A small error corrected. A thought changed. A memory altered. Last week, I dreamed of my own childhood, but it wasn't my house. It wasn't my mother, and I had another name. And when I woke up, on the desk, an ID with that childhood photo and the name Letitia N. My name isn't Letitia, or it wasn't, but now it seems everyone agrees that it is.
Even the voicemail voice changed. "Hello, Letitia. You have 3 messages." It's at times like these that I wonder, did the old man at the market know all this from the beginning? Was he bait? Or someone trying to free me? And if that's it, if I'm really trapped in a cycle of experiments in a programmed reality where each good deed triggers the end of a version of me? Or what if I went crazy? What if all this was just a deep dissociative break, fed by loneliness, anxiety, and a fractured mind? Either way, today's the 1-year anniversary since that purchase, and guess who was at the market just now? Him. Again. Identical. Same coat, same voice. And when he got to the checkout, the line formed behind him. He hesitated, looked at me, smiled, and said, "Want to try again?" I paid. I think I always pay. But now, I just have to wait. It's 3:32.
And you? Have you ever found yourself trapped between what you feel and what others say is real? Was I the villain here, or just an error in the system? I really want to know what you think. Tell me in the comments, because sometimes the only thing scarier than the truth is the possibility that it never existed.